Hey guys, Coach Berto here. As many of you guys know, 2017 was a contest prep year for me. However, what a lot of you guys don't know is that this is something that I set myself up for somewhere in the middle of 2016. So what I'm here to tell you guys is that if you're planning on competing in 2018 and you're planning on using Team 3DMJ as your coaching service, that you better get a hold of us now. This is to ensure that you are in the right position to maximize your prep, both in regards to the effectiveness of the prep, so that we can not just be effective, but also educate along the way, and so that we can have fun. So don't be one of those people who get a hold of us in January and it's a situation that we just have to turn down. The time is now, folks. You will not regret it. You will be glad that you thought of this and set yourself up for success ahead of time.
Hi 3DMJers, this is Andrea Valdez, and today I'm talking to Brad Loomis and Alberto Nunez about getting older as an athlete. In this conversation, the three of us are just kind of casually chatting about how things have changed for us over time as we've matured in our athletic endeavors. This is definitely not just three people in their 30s and 40s bitching about growing up. It's more a discussion of appreciation for what we've gained, how we take care of ourselves, what we look forward to, and how we maintain our health, well-being, and athletic stamina to the best of our abilities. If you're younger than us, you'll get a feel of what's to come. And if you're like our ages or older, you'll hear about how we're dealing with our sport, both physically and mentally, to keep ourselves fresh and in a prime position to continue progressing for decades to come, hopefully, right? So, as usual, if you have any feedback for us or comments on this episode, you can head over to 3dmusclejourney.com or to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/team3dmj and leave it under podcast number 71. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation about aging as an athlete with Alberto Nunez and Brad Loomis.
Hey, we're getting old, and that's the truth. That's exactly what it is. And happy birthday week. It's a week-long celebration for Andrea. She wants it to be that way. And
it's my birth week.
Yeah, it's her birth week. That kind of sparked an interesting topic for us in that we are getting older. It does indeed happen to everyone. When I say my age out loud, it kind of freaks me out. Like, I'm 34. Here I am. Like, 30 was a shock, and I'm for sure in my mid-30s now. Officially, I'd say, for sure. No negotiating that. So it's crazy how that happens.
When are you going to be 35?
And March.
Okay.
So I know that when the year turns, it's right around the corner. Enjoy whatever that age is. I think, and especially in my case, I've been prepping. So what this prep means to me, what bodybuilding means to me in general, like along with, I guess you could say the physiological changes, my perspective has changed as well. And it's too different than just a decade ago. That I think it's worth addressing, because I've addressed this with myself plenty of times, you know?
Yeah.
It's different now.
Yeah, and I can say that because my birth week was, 2 weeks ago,
right.
2 or 3 weeks ago. And I guess it's just something about the number of being closer to 50 now than 40 kind of freaks me out a little bit, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, when I turned 40,
Brad.
I was no problem with it. You know, when I turned 40, I was fine. No problems at all. No midlife crisis or anything. But now it's like, wow, 46. I'm officially closer to 50 than I am to 40, you know? And I used to think the opposite. Well, no, I guess I used to think like things like that in a good way. Like, I remember when I crossed over from like 550 pounds on my deadlift, I was now officially closer to 600 than I was to 500. That's a good thing, right? But yeah, I mean, with the age, it's kind of like, that makes me cringe just a little bit.
Okay. And I know it's my birth week, but I don't feel old. And it doesn't make me cringe at all, and I don't care about it. I don't know if that's because I'm not in my 40s. I don't know. I just don't. Like I said on Instagram, and I meant it, my body hurts more, but I'm also doing more than I've ever done as an adult. So I don't feel like I don't, in my brain, I'm not like, oh, I'm getting old, this hurts. I'm like, I'm asking a lot of my body and it hurts and this is what comes with it. So like, but mentally I don't feel old. Physically, I mean, things hurt more, but I can do so much more. So I don't feel old.
How old are you now, Andrea, for the people?
Just turned 32 2 days ago for the people.
Okay. Oh, so you're into the 30s now. You've been there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the physiological side of things, like it's kind of, I feel the same way where I don't necessarily feel like anything is that different. And if anything, there's a number of feats that I can perform now that were out of the question in my mid 20s.
Yeah.
And then as the mental side of the sport, I think that's one thing where your perspective changes. I think that is probably the thing that changes the most, at least. And again, we're going to have people who are tuning in who are in their 40s and 50s, and they're like, you have no idea. Like, you tell me about old, right? But I vividly remember being, in my early 20s, and I'd have many 30-year-olds come in having that haterade, and they're like, wait till you get to be my age, or you're not gonna be able to walk. Or
that shit happens all the time, yeah. Or because they're 30, your metabolism turns to shit. That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're 30, you don't burn fat as well, they say.
and now it's the 40-year-olds, and I'm almost mentally in a place in my head where I'm like, just let me be 40 so I can just be like, nah, dude, I'm like your age, and I'm still doing pretty cool things with my body, and I appreciate that. So that's probably the one thing I've gotten the most out of fitness, and I can reflect on that now, is that I see my friends, because again, I didn't do this for health. When I took up bodybuilding, it wasn't to be healthier. It was because I was a stranded athlete looking for something to do with themselves. But my intentions weren't necessarily to age more gracefully, to have fantastic blood work, but it kind of comes by default now, right? And I appreciate that, especially if my friends are tuning in. I am sorry when I see the way my friends that are my age is like, whoa, you Father Time has been hitting you with the thick 10mm belt. So it's I see that now, and I'm like, wow, like I'm moving and doing this and watching your nutrition and just being a little bit more self-aware, I think, than most normal people, because we're managing so many things, right?
Yeah.
To get the most out of our performance. So you become, just a lot more self-aware, and it lends to a healthier, happier life. But those were not my intentions when I started. But now I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm like, well, I don't feel like I'm in my mid-30s. And when I see people who I aged with and use them as landmarks, I'm like, wow, this shit's healthy for you. This stuff works. So I'm enjoying it now, and I almost can't wait to be 45 and have some old man tell some kid that, hey, you're about to snap because humans weren't meant to squat with 225 pounds on their back or something like that. And I can butt in and be like, bruh, like I've been on his end. I am 45. Sit down. Don't get on the kid because you started late and you. So anyhow,
I think
I
that's
appreciate. And I'm like the exact opposite of you, Alberto. I mean, I got into bodybuilding, first of all, not knowing that it was not a real healthy thing to do. But in my mind at the time, I was like, I need to do something healthy here. I need to do something where, I've got this terrible spine, and I've got to do something to make sure that I'm strengthening my body so that it doesn't end up collapsing underneath me, And I got into it for the purposes of longevity. I'm like, you know what? That was kind of one of my mantras that I used to say to myself. I'd say, you know what? I want to be around to see Xander's grandkids have grandkids, That was one of my little themes that I used to always say to myself, And I kind of got away from that, I guess, for a little while, when it was kind of like I was trying to, I don't know, prove people wrong, that you didn't necessarily have to be super, super healthy, or at least have it rule your life in order to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And now I've kind of come back around again, kind of 180 degrees. And I'm like, gosh, you know what? I need to do and pay attention to more important things than, bodybuilding and purposes of getting bigger and competing, on bigger stages and whatnot. And, I'm kind of at that level now where I'm like you, Berto. It's like, you know what? Here I am, 46 years old. And even in my 30s, I was not doing what I am now. I actually physically, in some ways, feel better now than I did in my late 30s. But then there's other things, like it used to be nothing for me in my 30s to just take off, maybe just do a little warm up, just take off and run like a 5-second 40, And I could do that.
Were you sore the next day though? Don't lie.
No, not really. Not really.
Okay.
But keep in mind, this was in my 30s. This was in my late 30s, right? And remember, on my 40th birthday, I competed in a full contact gridiron alumni football game.
You did. That was amazing.
I was prepared for that, and I felt good. Well, here about probably a month or so ago, we're timing Xander's 40s, and I'm like, you know what? I just want to see what I can do, knowing full well that I used to be able to run pretty consistently, low fives. I want to see what I can do. So I warmed up, ran, a couple warm-ups, ran like a 10-yard sprint, run a 20-yard sprint, and the first letdown was that I barely got in the fives. I think it was like 5.7 that I ran this 40-yard dash, okay? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try one more time, see if that was a fluke. Same thing. The big letdown, though, was the next day when my right hip flexor was absolutely freaking killing me.
People underestimate sprinting, I'm telling you. Yeah. But you shouldn't feel bad, though, because I can guarantee you, I'm not going to say half, but there's a large majority of people listening, anywhere from 20 to 6, I don't care how old you are, if you haven't sprinted in 5 or more years, don't do it. Like, it's dangerous. People forget that bodybuilding and powerlifting, whether performance sport or not, or how much you lift, like if you're not used to moving fast, you're going to break your shit, man.
Yeah. And I mean,
dangerous.
Luckily I felt it, but luckily it went away after about a week or two. But
holy
shit, I was like
a week or two.
I thought you were going to say a day or two.
So that was big. That was a bit disappointing.
Yeah. It's funny too. Cause
I like how you say it's dangerous, Andrea. Like you sound old when you say that.
No, but like.
But you're right. You're absolutely right.
For real, all my powerlifting friends, there's about 3 of them where I'm like, okay, I would be all right if you tried to run a 100-meter dash in front of me. But most of y'all, I'm like, please don't do it. Because you're going to snap a hammy. You're going to be sore as shit for 2 days. Like you said, your hip flexor. Brandon, remember like a year or two ago? He wanted to sprint. We did a few outside, and he was like, that lasted about a week.
Yeah.
It's different. But I don't think about health a lot, to be honest. I still think about it as sport, but whenever the thing that gets me is when like I'm out and I see people unable to do things at a seemingly like an age where I'm like, there's no way at that age I couldn't do it. Like if I see what appears to be like a 50-something-year-old needing someone to help them with their groceries, I'm like, what? They're only 50, Or like they're not super gray and wrinkly. They need some help, And like, God love them, my mom and grandma were here and, for my birthday, and we went to a restaurant and we parked half a parking lot away, and me and Brandon get out, we're walking, and I turn behind, I'm like, oh my God, they're still back there. And granted, they're like mid-50s and mid-70s, but I'm like, oh, she's only mid-50s, like, and I love my mom, but and she has diabetes or whatever, but I am like nowadays, I guess, in my older age, I look at people that I feel like are only 2 or 3 decades ahead of me doing stuff or needing assistance in things, and I'm like, there's no way I would need assistance for that. Or not like I think I'm better, but like it's more like, holy shit, I'm so glad I trained, because I couldn't imagine not being able to play with my little cousins, or I don't have kids to think about that, or if I went to a high school football game to see my friend, like one of my best friends has kids that go to the same high school I went to. So every holiday we like go to volleyball games or something. And like if I couldn't go up the stadium stairs or just stuff like that, that's like everyday things that I would be so scared to not be able to do. And it's not something I think about all the time, but anytime I see someone needing assistance or that can't do something that seems to me like pretty easy, it freaks me out.
You know what's a big one, Andrea?
What?
This is funny because so when I drive, I still really like turn back and check like my spots really well. Like I just twist and I'm like almost over the seat. And I was driving with my buddy about my age, and it was like the most pathetic little like look to the side. I'm like, bro, you can't even turn around.
Turn your head. Yeah.
Like,
Or you know, yeah, and like we just moved. Like what I would be upset. I mean, granted we had movers, but like not for all of it. Like if I wanted to pick up a box, and my dad, I know, opposite of that, my dad's mid-60s. He helped us move all this shit. But he has a very physical job still, and he has since I was little. So I just, I don't think about, I do my sport so that I can live forever. But when I see people, again, either much larger than me at the same age or maybe 10, 15 years older than me that can't do, can't sit on the floor for more than 10 minutes without needing to lean against something, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like, dang.
Well, and that's what weight training does for us. I'm trying to find it on my Instagram account, but I remember I posted up, or I think I reposted a graph that I found that somebody put up, where they had this little long-term like survey of like weight trainers and non-weight trainers, and I remember vividly. And I just talked about this the other day when I was with some friends at dinner. And it basically, the life expectancy of the non-weight trainers and the weight trainers was not very far apart. It was only like 5 or 6 years that, you lived longer, being a weight trainer. But the thing that was really, really telling was that about mid-40s to early 50s, the non-weight trainers, their quality of life began to decrease rapidly. And the folks that were the weight trainers that trained with weights and were active, that line was really almost the peak at like late 40s, early 50s. And when it dropped off, it didn't really drop off until like 60 or 70. And then when it did drop off, it dropped off, fairly rapidly. So instead of having this 30-year span of declining life, it was like 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And way later.
And I think that's one of the things that is in my mind is I'm thinking, I want to have that quality of life. You know what I mean? I want to be here today, vibrant, moving, enjoying my kids, playing my sports, and gone tomorrow. I mean, literally, like, if that's the way my life declines, that's the way I want it instead of, and I see that all the time, kind of in my second job. I see people that they're on both sides of that spectrum. I'll see sometimes 80, 90-year-old ladies that are walking in with a broken hip, and then I'll see like 50-year-old guys that, can't even get off the flipping gurney, so we'll have to link that little graph because that is a very interesting little graph that I'd love to post up there. I can't even remember who I got it to. We got to make sure we give credit to where credit is due.
Of course, of course. So what do you think about, so is this about bodybuilding and getting old, or how we, what is this about, Bert?
Well, I think just the fact like that's a huge perk that, like when I'm trying to get out of an airplane, I actually posted this on Instagram. It's frustrating because I'm like, if everyone here just lifted a little bit, we would all be able to get out of this plane a little faster. And, it wouldn't be scary to watch sedentary people like get
their bag off the top.
Yes, that should be very manageable, right? Like it's your carry-on. Right. So that's and it's just like little things. It's like the other day I forgot something as I was heading over to the gym. I drove back because it was still within reason, and I remember popping out of the car and just jogging and jumping and skipping a few steps, and I'm like, it just hit me for some random reason. I was having I'm like, dude, you're fucking 35, dude, and it's like. You're still as twitchy as you were in some ways, like 20 years ago. Like you plop into the couch, you stand up like really well. And it's funny, you stand up really well, but like just like little things like that I think now more than ever, and especially for the young folks who are doing this, and sometimes especially when you're younger, you know, you can't help but compare yourself to others, and you're like, well, you know, I wish I had better genetics, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, but it's like, it's gotten to the point now where I love being an athlete. This is exactly, there's nothing else I'd rather do with a big part of my life when I really look at how much time I do dedicate to it. But I can't help but like fall in love more and more with the benefits every year. It's like I want to at some point be 45 and be able to get into a front rack position and bury 400 pounds on a front squat. And it's like, dude, that's one badass dude that's, you know, he's going to have a good quality of life. And the way Brad put it was awesome. It was like, yeah, you know, I want to be able to move, do this, do that, train hard, hit a PR, shoot, he croaked the next week, right?
That's so morbid, y'all. But I feel what you're saying.
But yeah, no, I think just if we're looking at just like the moving benefits of lifting weights, I think even if, because, you know, people come in and out of the sport, like we have that with friends happen. It happens all the time where they were doing it for a minute, and for one reason or another, they got burnt out. They decided to peace out. And if anyone is maybe sometimes looking for a reason to continue lifting and is in one of those spots, I think just the moving benefits, I think, are something that now more than ever I really appreciate. Like, I'm still at the point where I hardly warm up, and I'm like, dude, like, you used to run 400 meters without like warming up, and not that I can do that now. But there was remnants of that still there to this day, you know. So yeah, I think a lot of this just comes from like we're getting older, and it was purely just a sport at some point, and it still is. But like it's also like super freaking healthy at times. And that's pretty awesome. So
yeah, it's more like the skill development too, right? Like not every sport.
Yeah.
Focuses on nutrition so much right from the get-go.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing and I just put this in a blog that I wrote that I think is going to be coming out sometime in the not too distant future, is the habits that you develop that will basically stick with you for the rest of your life, you know, because I've noticed that, I don't know which it is, you know, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, or if it's the athletes gravitate, you know, towards these mindsets, or if you just naturally have these mindsets and so you gravitate towards athletics. But when I made my mind up that I needed to get my fruits and vegetables in more frequently, and I could not stand to eat them, I figured out a way to do it. I made the change, and boom, it's happened ever since. You know, and there's no, I'm going to really try to do that. How many times do you hear people, I'm going to really try to
go to
make
the gym.
It here.
Yeah.
I'm going to really try to eat less, and I'm going to really try. No, I do it, period. You know, I figure out how to drink more water. Yeah, I'm pissing all the time, but I come up with strategies. I draw a line in the sand.
It's the old age.
But yeah, I do it. And those habits that we develop, you know, from the athletics and the bodybuilding, etc., there is no try, you know. So like Yoda, we do it. We figure out a way to do it, and we do it, you know, and there's no going back at that point.
So, you know, Brad, yeah, one thing as you were going through that, it kind of reminded me of, if it wasn't for bodybuilding, I don't think I would, for example, have as many fruits and vegetables as I do have throughout the day. Like, I try to imagine what it would be like to, you know, never have discovered this. I'm like, wow, you probably would have eaten meals that were like a few meals that were without protein, right? Like, just like that, that's weird, right? Like just a Doritos bag and a soda, and like, hey, you know what, this is the lazy man's dinner. Whereas I look at the variety of foods and all these, because again, it does frustrate me. So today I was pitched a health product, and I'm like, I'm not in the health and fitness industry. That's out of my lane. I can't, because I'm too ignorant to, you know, that side, in my opinion. And but there's still a sector of what we do that, I mean, we give people starter kits with like this many fruits and vegetables, take a multivitamin. Not many sports are that way, so we can't completely ignore that. Again, competitive sports aren't always healthy. but yeah, I think it's changed my life, bodybuilding, in terms of, say, the way I handle my nutrition. That I'm like, dude, you're calorie conscious. You eat a high protein diet. If the majority of the U.S. did that, we would not have this obesity epidemic going on right now, just with those two things. So yeah, again, it just a lot of it just makes me appreciate what we do. I'm doing this to get as strong as possible, as jacked as possible, but there's all these cool bonuses that do come with it as we get older that, yeah, just you start to appreciate more and more over time.
So, Bert, first, can you get this away from your
Oh,
your awesome hat is just clanking on your earphone. Just if you could keep the earpiece. I'm not going to edit this out either. People
Here we go.
like to see you fiddle with your awesome hat. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, I apologize. You can't see Bert's hat right now, but it's fuzzy and great. You're okay.
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 I'll do it like this. Yeah.
Just because it rubs, man. So other than the things we get from it, right, that'll carry us through longevity, and we never thought about when we were younger, but we're happy it's going forth. Are there things that you guys now have to do to stay healthy that you didn't have to do before? Who wants to start that?
Shoot, I could go on for a long time with that.
Ready, set,
well,
go.
First of all, I already kind of covered it. I can't just go, sprint 40 yards like I used to, So if that was something that I did want to do, I'd have to build up to it. I'm going to have to be mindful of it. I'm going to have to maybe start doing some jogging, And so, you got to be smart. I know that I don't want to be a sprinter. I do want to be a power lifter, so I'm probably not going to incorporate sprinting into my regimen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I do want to be a power lifter, and while I used to be able to just run out there and go like a lot of gym rats do, 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates, done,
Yeah.
I do have to go through my mobility work and my dynamic warm up, and I do a lot of crossing over. Andrea, you'll be proud of me. I found a lot of dynamic movement improvement that happens when I snatch, and not just with a kettlebell, like I've done for years. You
barbell
snatch?
snatch?
But an actual barbell snatch.
Oh,
yeah.
Shoot.
You'll have to visit my Instagram. I just posted one up the other day where I snatched. I think I did 75 pounds or something like that for 2 successful attempts and 2 failed attempts.
That's great.
But that's all stuff that I didn't really feel like I had to do. Even maybe 6 or 7 years ago, just kind of getting movement going and things like that, that I pay a lot more attention to, stretching. I've never really stretched a whole lot anyway. And if I did, it was just real quickly before and after training. But now it's like, I got to think about that a few times for a few seconds every single day. I got to keep my adductors nice and flexible. I got to keep my hamstrings flexible. And so I stretch, just for a few seconds all the time. Mm-hmm. And then on the non-performance related side, like I told you, I feel like I need my vitamins to come from whole food and not synthetic form.
Okay.
Do I have proof of that? Not really. However, I make sure that I get a green vegetable, a whole green vegetable, either a whole celery stalk, a cucumber, something, carrots, 2 carrots preferably, and a fruit every single day. And I have noticed that, at least mentally, I feel a little bit better when I do that. I feel like there's a little bit of clarity there, I guess you might say. Sometimes my thinking seems to be a little bit better. Hydration, I kind of went through a little spell where I wasn't drinking enough water, and I need to, and I had to figure out a strategy, in order to do that. I touched on it in the blog that'll come out sometime on the 3DMJ website, probably in the next few weeks. But yeah, things like that, I probably don't have to do that for performance or aesthetic reasons. But in my mind, there's no question I have to do it. I have to do it. I perform better. I think better. I'm just better, period. Is it optional? Yes. I probably don't have to do it, but I'm not giving myself the option. I'm saying I have to do it.
Yeah. That's good, Brad.
Yeah.
I'll stop talking and Berto can
No,
go.
that's really good. I was
As you were
absorbing.
going through that, I was thinking of perhaps things that have changed. And actually, no, there is one that has changed, and that's how much more sleep I do require in order to just feel better in general. And it has a much greater impact on my training now. When my old rule in the off season was 60 hours a week. I'm gonna try to sleep 60 hours a week because I felt that was more within. Most people probably don't eat 60, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not just a normal dude. I'm trying to do these crazy things with my body. Crazy for me, anyways. So the sleep thing, I remember maybe a decade ago. I was on the total dude in their mid-20s schedule where me and my training partner, we would train at different times. There was really no specific time. It's like, yeah, I'll meet you at 2 a.m. We'll hit a quick chest workout. And then the next day it'd be at 6 p.m. or something odd. But I could do that. And now it's like, if I get less than, I'd say 7 hours of sleep, like my food doesn't taste the same. My mood is not the same. I'm not as creative.
Yeah.
Like the world looks like an Instagram filter almost.
Which might be good if it's the good one.
If it's the good one, but the dull one, so yeah,
the one that's like
yeah.
yellowy.
Potato.
Sky
Yeah.
is not as blue. Yeah. But that sort of deal. I think that's a huge one where I've seen that. That's one thing that I have had to adjust as I've gotten older, is the fact that I require a little bit more sleep. And it's funny, it affected my training for sure, but it was more so me just trying to, when I committed to sleep. Another bit, the initial reason for it is like, dude, you're garbage when you don't sleep relative to your mid-20s. So that's one that I feel has changed and I've picked up on most recently.
I'd
have to agree with you totally, because I was the same way. You remember I used to fall asleep sometimes just sitting at the dinner table.
You fell asleep in Australia at the dinner table. I remember there's a video on the internet.
Of that.
And for me, it used to be like, I'm living life here. It would be nothing for me to get off work at 1 a.m., sleep for 3 hours, drive down to Sacramento, do a powerlifting meet, and just catch up on the flip side, But like Alberto, I can't do that anymore. And that's one thing I'd have to agree with Alberto. I've really had to pay attention to that recently.
Now, do you think you can't do it anymore, or you care more about your performance?
A little of both. I'm like Alberto. When I don't get that rest, my creativity just goes into the dumps. I'm a little bit more edgy. I'm not as patient, which as coaches we need to be, My performance goes down, like you said. And really, I shouldn't say my performance goes down. It just doesn't feel as good.
Mine sure as shit goes down.
Yeah, I can hit the same numbers, but it don't feel as good,
I can hit my strength if my sleep is jacked up, but I can't, it is super obvious in my Olympic lifts. I'm slower. My reaction time is shit. But I can push myself through, if it's squats or whatever. I haven't really, not that I'm, would a powerlifting meet suck without sleep? Probably. But normal percentage work on strength stuff I can do. It's just a little shittier when I haven't slept. But yeah, the speed, power stuff, super noticeable if I don't sleep. So that's what I'm saying is, I know in grad school, when I started lifting, I wasn't lifting a lot. It's until I started powerlifting in maybe 2014-ish, so the last 3 or 4 years, when I really was able to give a shit about my performance and I was actually closer to my ceiling in performance, is when I made a lot of changes. I don't think it was I don't know, maybe it was an age thing, but I think it's more that anything I was doing before that was just so much easier. Or, I might have trained for an hour a day and then done a cardio class or something before. But it wasn't this is actually hard, your nervous system hates you kind of stuff. So now I do a whole bunch of a lot of the things y'all talked about, but I think it's because care more. Like when I was a little gymnast kid, I don't know how the hell I trained for 4 hours eating trash and not caring about sleep and missing homework and like I don't know how I did it, but I was a kid, so like it's hard to compare like kid to now. But when I look at early 20s to now, like I said, I might have frequented the gym every day or had cheerleading practice, but it wasn't as physically taxing. So I'd like fall asleep in class because I partied or something like that, but I didn't care about hitting like a 80% squat for 5 or something, you know? So like I can't tell if it's because I'm older or if because I care more and I'm actually an athlete now or I was an exerciser before. So I don't know. But I do enjoy my sleep.
Is there anything that you feel has changed physiologically?
Like
Because
downward?
the sleep one was one that, that it's you've had to adjust. I
can't tell if it's because of age or because I started like functional fitnessing rather than. I can't tell. But in the last 2 years, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. The sleep. I won't wake up to an alarm clock unless I have to, but I refuse. Literally, like, unless there's like an event, I'd say once every 2 weeks because something happened, I'll use an alarm clock, but I try not to. I care more about I cared just as much about my food when I was, when I was bodybuilding. You were there, Bert. I wouldn't, like, it was like on the numbers all the time, and I cared about that. And now I'm like, what am I training? Will I make it through? Have I eaten enough? Is what I'm eating dense enough to not hurt my stomach or feel heavy? So it's like the opposite give a shit. Like I used to give a shit, like be smart about not eating too much, work with your food volumes, make sure it keeps you full while keeping you from gaining weight. And now it's like, I still track, but if I think, okay, I'm training twice a day, but none of it's real hard, I'm probably going to be good on 2,000 to 2,200 calories. And if I just finished my lift, but I have to go back for some conditioning piece later, I'm like, shit, okay, I need to drink extra Gatorade, and I need to get that extra Cliff Bar, and it might be a 2,500 calorie day, but I don't give a shit because I had to get through this thing. So I care just as much, but it looks different. So like I was telling Brad, my veggie intake has gone down because I won't eat vegetables until the nighttime when I'm done with both my workouts every day because it makes me like feel it's too much in my stomach. So I eat really dense, sugary foods for the first half of the day or first 2/3 of the day. So I'm trying to
just out of curiosity, Andrea, do you think when you are ready to step on stage that you'll be able to efficiently make that switch back?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, it's temporary. It's no problem.
Because I think
that's the thing it's not that I'm hungry. It's that I can tell when I'm low energy. Does that make sense? Like it's different now. Like because there's times too if I'm pretty hungry, but I know my next thing in the day involves running or jumping rope, I will purposefully not eat till I'm full because I know that would hinder my second workout. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it depends on what I have left for the day and whether it's like, oh, you have to lift tonight, make sure you eat enough, or you have to jump rope, reel it in a little. You know what I mean? Or like make sure it's liquid. Or sometimes because I know I have to jump rope, I'm like, don't do liquid because it'll like give you a stitch. So just do some Pop-Tarts. No joke. I'll do that sometimes when like I know it's like triple the calories, but this will help me make it through without me having a stomach ache, whereas the other one won't. So
I'm gonna ask you that question again because I know that we'll be together as a business in about 12 or 15 years when you're my age, and see if you'll be able to if you'll be that certain. Because I mean, to be honest with you, if I was to make that switch and just start a prep tomorrow, I know I have the habits.
Yeah.
I know how to do it.
Right.
And I know that on paper I could do it, no problem.
Okay.
My worry is about a week or so into it, just physically not being able to do it.
Nah.
You know what I mean?
No.
I just anymore, like I can tell a lot of times when I'm like in a deficit for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why can't, I mean, usually I'm a guy that remembers numbers and names. And it's like, why can't I remember my, boss's phone number. You know what I mean? Why, how come I'm getting kind of dark?
So
here
when
and
you're
I'm
a
not being-
deficit, when you're in a caloric deficit, you get like forgetful? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not as sharp. I am not as sharp. And I notice it not the first or second day, but like third, fourth, fifth day. It's like, aha, you know what? You haven't been eating enough. You've been eating your fruits and vegetables and you've been eating your protein powder and your chickens, but it's not enough. You haven't been eating enough quantity of food. And then sure enough, usually I'll weigh myself and I'm a little bit lighter. So then I got to pay a little bit more attention to it. I really don't know, to be honest with you, if I'm going to be able to go through a full building prep again.
Interesting. I have no problem still being like, of course I could.
Yeah. I kind of wonder. I really do. Because I'm in a week, 5 days at a deficit sometime. And man, I am, not worth a shit.
But I think it's different too when you're mentally there. Like you don't really want to prep right now. So that's probably why it's hard. Does that make sense?
But at the same time, I'm not even really thinking about it. I'm just noticing it. You know what I mean?
But I don't know. When you think about how hard-headed we are in our first few preps, or us specifically, now it's like we're fucking doing this. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I have to do this. Don't talk to me, wife. Like we're, you know what I mean? Like I don't think there'd be a question. And for me, Bert's worked with me. I'd be like, Berta, what do you mean? Okay, got it. Like that's if nothing else, because I wouldn't want Berto.
Never change.
Yeah, if anything else, it's because I wouldn't want Berto to be like disappointed by me.
Yeah.
So I have no problem saying that, but I don't think that has to do with age again. It'll be different in the fact that I don't know at what age I'd be able to say, okay, I'm not going to Olympic lift. Like we'd have to prep while I'm snatching and doing butterfly pull-ups and muscle ups. I don't know. That's what I think now, if we had to prep like sometime soon. But I don't know. I'm having too much fun to give up gymnastics or Olympic lifting for the foreseeable future. I don't know.
Well, my problem is I'm just having too much fun making progress in the gym that I don't.
It's just different. Like I said, if I had like my knees acting out, like if I really did like tear something and I don't know, then I couldn't do the things I physically want to do for amount of time or forever or whatever, then I would just diet because I would need something. But
I've always said that too. I've said the same thing. If I can't squat 450 pounds anymore, I'll probably just diet.
What?
Do leg extensions and leg presses.
I don't know. But so things are different, but I don't know if they're age related. I think more so than age, I think there might be some maturity related things. Like my priorities are different, right? Like when we were in our early 20s and single, like being sexy mattered, and it just you know what I mean? Not that we're not all sexy, because obviously we are. I'm just kidding. But like, you know what I mean? Like you, well,
no, we're sexy.
Especially Berto.
We're
definitely just does something for me.
No, but like we care more about our performance, right? But we also probably at the same time care less about looking good in a bikini at the pool or whatever. And not that I would look like shit in a bikini, but it was really important to me when I first got into bodybuilding, especially my first prep. As I'm doing that in grad school, we went to the pool every weekend, and I'm like looking better and better. I wasn't going to lose that ever, like, you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
You know, this relates back to what you guys kind of touched on previously, and it tags along to maturity. I do feel that maturity is, something that there's a very strong correlation between that and age, obviously, right?
You would hope,
but
most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time, right? The just kind of being a bit more self-aware is part of that.
Yeah.
And when I see you talk about like the nutrition and this and that, it's like that's something that I felt that I was kind of doing with bodybuilding in the same manner, where like that's where the Pop-Tart thing came from. It was from the 400-meter race. If I had anything else, I'd just puke basically. So I had to go with the Pop-Tart. And anyhow, so the fact is that in regards to like what I can handle, because that was kind of Brad's question, could you handle a prep? I don't know if I can. I just think I'm a little bit more Yeah, I understand that I have limits that and that they fluctuate. Whereas, I would maybe even feel bad when I was younger if I was prepping and I'm like, man, I really like want to see that Pizza Hut commercial again. Right. So I'm a little bit kinder, and I understand that the stress management component is a huge part of being a successful athlete, and that is a skill that I do feel if you do this and you do this long enough, you kind of learn to manage. You want to take a little bit more control about your outside stressors, and to some extent, some of us even design our lives a bit around what's going to get us the best performance because we understand that sort of stuff like does matter. So I think that's a huge one, and I think where it can get murky is as you pick up that as I do this, I get like me in my sleep. It might just come from more self-awareness on many levels, and one of them I do think you're just a little bit more in tune with your body when you do sort of things. Like I can't really see this never happens, but a terminal disease like sneaking past us, and we're like, oh shoot, like I had no idea. But yeah, no, I think that's another huge one. Is just like I look at my life, and yes, it's much more stressful now than it was in my mid-20s, but that kid could not have handled it. And like over time, I've kind of learned to better manage my fatigue outside of the gym as well as inside of the gym, and that just comes with age. And then obviously it's just something you have to do in order to keep progressing. And thankfully, a lot of the sports that we partake in, there's a lot of uptime before you actually might have to start seeing some decreases in both performance and the way we look. So I think that's a huge one. It's just awareness is something that self-awareness that lifting weights and bodybuilding and powerlifting and all that stuff can definitely aid with.
Yeah, because like I said, as bodybuilding, you have to care about nutrition at some point. The first 1 or 2 times you actually diet to stage lean, now that you know what that feels like, it's just nothing say you just finished your first or second contest prep and it's been 6 months that you're in the off season, and one of your friends is like, oh my God, I'm starving. And you're like, no, you're not. You know what I mean? Like you don't actually know what starving is, So that's what I mean, like, that's a part of like learning yourself. That doesn't necessarily take age, but it does take experience, right? If you know what dieting feels like extreme dieting, you know what that feels like. So what else is experience? Like when you said designing your life, I guess that's something that I've continued to fine tune over time as well, as y'all know. I'm very, very picky about when stuff happens. So like again, like the nutrition, it's counterintuitive. Like when I say I care more, but I eat more freely, but it's because I care more. It's the same with my schedule. Like I will avoid appointments like the plague unless they're very regular and only one a day. I'm still doing something all day, but I need to have the freedom to eat what I need to eat, go where I need to go, because I go to multiple gyms. I need the freedom to, I do need a nap before this. I didn't think I would, but I do. So it's that kind of freedom I need in my life because I care more, I guess. And that's not just for training, it's for work too. Like if I have if it's 5 o'clock and I just finished training and I know I have a podcast recording with you guys at 7, sometimes I'll like force myself to go take a nap because I know if I just went all the way through, I'd be shit.
Yeah. And I will say that watching you be kind of picky about that kind of stuff has kind of helped me.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of helped me understand, you know what? I need to make sure that I, do one consultation a day and no more, because I don't want the second and third one to be shit, know. And I know that, if I want to be mentally sharp, I'm going to probably have to get a nap before we do a podcast. Or if I want to perform good at this next training session, I probably better eat a little bit more, especially if I'm going to train in the morning. I probably better eat a little bit more tonight. Yeah. And then I'll be ready. And you've definitely kind of watching you kind of pay attention to that and how picky you are at that. It's kind of like, you know what? There's a reason she does that. Maybe I should probably,
That's good.
follow suit.
Yeah. And like I said, if I have have to. I can. It's just when it's more than like a day or two, I start to freak out. Y'all been with me when I'm out of town. And I like half train when I'm out of town. But I don't know. I care too much. And again, I don't think that has anything to do with age. Maybe that's not made for this podcast. But like you said, maybe it's a maturity thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was always a kind of athlete that I'm like, I'll do whatever I want outside of practice, but when I get there, like I'm gonna work my hardest. And I think, part of it was, I think the age maybe, but also the fact that I just wasn't as in tune with things, and I didn't understand how things outside of what's going on right now are going to help you excel at this even more so long term. But the stress management, I think, outside of the gym is one thing that is, again, when it goes back to appreciating the health benefits of lifting weights, like that's one thing that you will hear athletes almost instinctively in their reports bring up is the levels of stress outside of the training, because we at some point kind of understand how they are indeed connected, both the stress you want in your life and the one that sometimes it's like a little bit out of your control and more than you can handle. So I think a big one for me is just learning to manage my stress better, which I don't see over the next few years getting any less than what it is right now. Like I want to do things, I want to do more, so that's going to climb up. I'm gonna have more responsibilities, that sort of stuff. And one thing I have learned through weightlifting is like managing your efforts, and the same thing kind of goes with life. I think it's indirectly it makes you aware when it comes to stress, which again, I think the average person severely underrates how that can affect their general health.
And I think the average person doesn't recognize, like they think stress must be busy schedule and stress must be work or chaos, but like it comes in a whole lot of forms. Like how I was saying, I can't do more than one podcast or Skype with an athlete per day, or anything that's like very people oriented, because I don't know how to not be very involved in conversations, as y'all know. So every conversation I have is very draining for me. It sounds like really pansy, but it really is. And that's a stressor for me. Like I manage the amount of people time I spend, because as much energy as I needs to, like, I know I need it for training. And I know I need it for my mental work. And so if I spend it all outwardly, like I'm just a high energy conversational person or whatever. So, and like you said, you're just like pickier about how you spend things. Like, and I don't know how y'all are about this, but like the amount of people I feel like I need to see socially is much smaller than it used to be. Not that I don't care about people, but like I when you're in your early 20s and you're in college or whatever, like you have to see everybody every weekend. And like now I'm just like, I really don't need to see that many people. And most of them I see via Skype. So I think that is by a maturity and a self-awareness, and like who really matters, who really needs my time. And if they don't, like they don't usually get it anymore. Whereas I used to do a lot of favors. Used to, anytime someone comes in town, make an effort to go see him, and like sometimes I just can't. Like my athletic goals are big, my business goals are big, and they require me to be alone. And someone even asked me the other day, they're like, so because Brandon was out of town, they were like, so are you like lonely? And I'm like, no, this is go time. This is it sucks that he's not here, but when he's not here, I can work even more. So I don't see it as a loss, and I never feel lonely. I just feel like I'm again, it's a way to harness my energy inward and do the things that really matter and that are going to push me forward. Okay.
No, I like that. Yeah, the older you get, the more you keep things in your life that you want to have, and the things that you don't, you kind of shoo out.
Yeah, they only like half matter. They'd be nice. Like it'd be nice if I could see, like when I, like, okay, so You know how, like, I don't know how long y'all have lived away from home, but like your first summer after college on Thanksgiving and Christmas, you go home and see all your high school friends. And you know what I mean? And like every Christmas, it was like, see everyone you can. Okay, see everyone you can. And now it's like, there's been some Christmases I don't see anyone from high school, and there's usually I see 1 or 2 people, where it used to be like 10 or 20, and we'd go to the bar every Christmas to see all the people, you know? And it's just shit like that, where it's like, okay, I only have 3 days here. I know my family matters, and that's it. Whereas I used to try to spend like 2 weeks at home between semesters and shit like that. Now I'm like, I got work to do. I got training to do. I'm going to see the people that actually do 100% matter, and then get back to normal life, because normal life is when I can focus on my athletics and business the best. Does that sound shitty?
No.
Does it make me sound old?
I wish a lot of people probably are kind of in that tweener phase, and they when they step back and they look at what's been happening the last few years, I think it's quite normal. You clean out the clots at a certain point, and again, a lot of it just I do feel that as you get older, you just get better at deciphering what actually matters. And
and again, that's the difference between, like you said, we're not in the health and fitness industry. I mean, everyone says we're fitness or whatever, true, but if I was a Gen Pop personal trainer or online coach for like general people, it's like, go home, have time with your family, it's okay, you let me know when you come back. But if someone's prepping, it's like, okay, other than that day, I really need you to be on. You have to get this shit done. Sure, maybe have your day. Whereas it's just, I say it all the time, it's just an athlete versus an exerciser. Like, all the shit I said, I know sounds crazy or stupid or, I don't know, I just care a lot about the sports that I do. Whatever. Yeah,
we exercise. It's kind of on accident, though. That's kind of how I see it. But I really appreciate it now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but even then, though, like with me, I've had more injuries in the last 2 years, also. So I guess I don't know if that has to do with age or the effort, but it's not healthier. For bodybuilding, it's healthier, I guess, because I'm eating more and I'm growing. But medically, it hasn't been as healthy as when I was just bodybuilding and powerlifting. It's all exchanges.
Yeah. No, that's a big one, and I do have things that hurt here and there, and I know they hurt because of the things I do with them, right? And if anything, when it comes to that realm, kind of that's one thing I've done really well in my 30s relative to my 20s, where I was pretty injury free, is I haven't added any new ones. So a lot of the stuff that I wrecked a little bit in my 20s, I think after accumulating more than one, you're like, you know what, this is limiting, and when I have like 2 or 3 of them going at the same time, this really sucks. I'm gonna try not to get hurt anymore. And that's a
good thing to try for.
That's a good motto, right? Bumpers. But yeah, the fact is that I want to do this for a long time because it makes me very happy. Absolutely. But I think now more than ever, it's like I want to do this for a long time because I notice how much better it's going to make my quality of life. And I kind of think of both of them in the gym when I am training now. It used to be like I just want it all today, and then that slowly evolved to like, you know what, you have time. Don't backtrack. Some progress is better than no progress. You keep doing your thing, and be patient. Think about tomorrow, because you need a lot of tomorrows to basically accumulate. Yeah, to accumulate any progress that's significant past a certain point. So I learned to think past today as an athlete. And ironically, I think my 30s, you can kind of add the health component to that more than 10 years ago, where you know what, you want to be cautious, you want to be careful, you want to think long term, because this is going to make you a whole lot better at a lot of other things outside of just being an athlete. So that's kind of a side effect from all my things bodybuilding that I did not expect, but now that I'm in my mid-30s, I'm like, I truly do appreciate them.
Yeah, Facebook Makes me appreciate it. Not that I get on there often, but when I see, or Instagram, when I see anyone I went to high school with or college with, I'm like, you know.
And it's funny because you mentioned the happiness, that kind of comes from it, Berto, because when you mentioned that, it kind of reminded me of a conversation that I just had here probably about, I don't know, maybe even like 2 weeks ago with an old acquaintance that was a member of my gym way back when I used to own the gym, right? And he asked me a question. He says, I heard through the grapevine that what got you going and what kind of keeps you going is that you have spine issues. And so that's what kind of originally got you going and is what keeps you going, right? Because he says, you're still at it. You're still at it after all these years, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the things that got me initially into it, and kind of got me, kind of kept me motivated. And I said, but you know what? Let's just face it, training is fun. It is a fun thing to come down here and do this and throw weight on my back and stuff like that, And his wife was there, and she kind of looked at me like I was nuts, And I don't think that people realize that the training is and can be a real source of happiness, and it just happens to be way up there on the scale of our happiness measures,
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I would keep doing it if it was just for my back, or if it was just so that I can be around to see Xander's grandkids have grandkids. You know what I mean? Maybe not. I can't really say for sure, but at the same time, I'm sure I'm glad that I really, really like it, and that it is fun and brings me happiness.
Oh, yeah. It's because it's attached to health and physicality and your appearance and stuff. People don't see it as a hobby. They see it, but it is. It's just like probably that lady maybe knits or she scrapbooks or and could do that all day every Sunday or whatever, right? And it's like, no, you get the same thing from it, but it's just because you also look good because of it. It's like they think that you might be like vain or that you have all this discipline, and it's like, nah, it's like when you scrapbook. If you could scrapbook 3 hours a day and it would make your scrapbooking better, would you do it? And they'd be like, yeah, yeah. I think people miss that, but luckily we all get it, and the listeners probably get it. But you're right, it does, and it just builds fucking character too. Like it's fun, but just like scrapbooking maybe maybe knitting. I don't know what you're making jewelry, whatever it is, but it's like it anything that is difficult and that is that you do by trial and error over time and builds a lot of, I don't want to say favorable character traits, but I believe medically it is like healthier traits when you developing your grit and your persistence and your ability to overcome challenges and your growth mindset and like all that stuff. So it's not just happy feels, it's like mentally healthy.
Makes good people.
Arguably. Or vain, right? I mean, it's made, I think bodybuilding has, at certain points in my life, made me a worse person and a better person. It's just, but go over the decades or whatever, I imagine it would only make better, I guess. But everything has its ups and downs, but, and everything has its good and bad things. It's just, I think you're able to see the good things better over time. Like you said, Bert.
And recognize the bad things and recognize that is bad.
Yeah. And if nothing else, recognizing when something's bad, but still doing it at least. Like that takes self-awareness too, right? Like us knowing dieting to this level is not real smart. Therefore, we're only going to do it when we really feel ready.
Yeah.
Training all this crazy shit isn't that smart. So I may as well do a lot of mobility and flexibility and joint care because it's, because it's true. Like we're not just, if we all dropped 100 pounds off of each one of our like big six lifts or whatever, we'd probably be healthier than what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like biologically we'd probably be healthier in a lot of ways. But it's the sport that pushes you, So it's bad, but it's also good.
You know what I feel bad for is the me's of 10 years ago. They're listening to this and they're like,
these old.
Nah.
I
It's not
know.
like it's old
Do they
people,
think
right?
that? Do
But
you think that some of the listeners think we're like pansies?
I think.
Like if you're
Well, you know
an
what?
18-year-old hungry kid who's about to do his first show, I bet they're like,
You might be like, yeah, it's typical old people stuff, right? But and you know what? I love my young peeps because that is actually another benefit that I have found through bodybuilding is that, usually when we get together with our friends that we've made via bodybuilding, like you get all sorts of different people. Like they do many different things with their life, different ages, backgrounds, and one of them is ages. Like that's I stop and think about it, and I'm like, dude, like that 19-year-old was just like super thrilled and happy to talk to you, and you guys had a really good chat, and it was a lot of fun. It was engaging, and I'm sure that not a lot of 34-year-olds can say that there's a part of them that kind of connects really well with the young people, and the other way around too.
Yeah.
For these young people, it's like I know these old folks that are really cool. So I think that's one thing I do appreciate. I love people. I do. I'm kind of a extrovert in the same fashion you are. Just it wears me out, but I love people, and that is one thing that I'm like. I hope to not be that. That Facebook profile picture that all parents have, kind of.
which one?
Where
Tell me about it.
it's kind of like a weird creeper one like this. It's like down here, right? So nose up and the Eiffel Tower's behind them or something, right? Like my auntie just went crazy on someone else's message that happened to post a picture that I was in it, and I'm like, man, like I don't ever want to be that old person. Like it's cute,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. And that's one thing that with bodybuilding, it's like I feel like it keeps you younger, and I guess a super generic word like hip a little bit longer, which is I think is probably good for your health. I can't prove that, but be hip is probably yeah.
Good for
And
your
I
hips.
think a lot. Well, and I think a lot of that just goes back to like if you're hip, you probably have a pretty broad social network,
Yeah.
and you're less likely to be that old lonely person at some point that
Yeah.
just talks to their cat. So
I think.
that's
I think about I think about like you said the 20-year-old me's that are out there because that's one thing that I have definitely noticed is that I've gotten older is that I've gotten less and less of an elitist attitude because I remember back in my 20s when I first started doing this I was like you know what this isn't for everybody and it's not but back then I was like you know what I was very close-minded you have to do this you have to do that if you really want to do this you have to do this and you have to do that and as I've gotten older it's kind of like you know what there's not one way to do this and I can help you figure out how to get it, what it is that you want. And there's not one way to do it, And so I've kind of opened up and said, you know what, if you really want to do this, we can figure out a way that makes it work. And it doesn't have to be this elitist attitude of this is the only way you can do it. And no, you're not for this and you shouldn't even try,
I think I'm the opposite.
Anymore. That was me though, believe it or not, that was me 20 years ago,
Yeah. In some ways, I'm the opposite. The more I know about bodybuilding, the more I recognize it's not for everybody. And and I think too, I find it, as y'all know from my Australia talk when everyone thought I was being crazy. But the more I think about it, the more I realize it's just as much part of my job to keep people from competing if they're not psychologically, emotionally invested in it. That it's just as much my job to keep those people out of it than it is to bring people in a healthy way. Like, I don't think, because of all the things that could go wrong with bodybuilding and because of all the negatives that can develop because you tried it, it's like unless, in my opinion, unless it pains you not to do it, you shouldn't do it. And I used to, when I first got into it, was like, oh, this is great. So anyone who I saw at the gym that looked kind of good, I'm like, you should totally get on stage. And now I'm like, zip. Like, unless you're like, I need to get on stage, help me do it. I'm like, don't do it. I don't know if that's exactly what I meant, but I don't think it's for everybody. of course, like health is, and maybe different sport. Everyone has a sport maybe that they would like, but I think this one, specifically bodybuilding, I don't think I'm more elitist. It's not like you're good enough for this and you're not. Like I'm classifying people in that way. It's just like, again, if whether your physique is awesome or not awesome yet, it's more like if I can't even keep you from doing this, then I'd love to have you on board so we can find the healthiest way to go about it. But if you're like, I don't know if I want to, then I'm like, well, then don't do it. Yeah. Please don't do it. I would like for you not to, kind of thing.
I mean, if somebody really wants to do it, though, I always
if they
try to
want
help them.
to.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
a lot of times
I've
people
never
want
been the kind of person to kind of go, you should bodybuild, you know?
Oh, dude, I totally was. When I first did my show, and then anyone that was
I've
like,
never been that
so
way.
what was that like? I'm like, dude, it was the best thing I've ever done. You should totally do it. Because it was the best thing I'd ever done, because that's my personality. And I'm like, it changed my life, because it did, but it doesn't mean that people should do it. Also, too, I think a lot of people in their brain, I want to do bodybuilding, but they don't really know what goes into it, and they don't know how it's going to feel.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's why it's like, oh, you want to, cool, but like, do you, like, are you going to die if you don't, kind of thing. I know it's like a little bit dramatic, but for real, like, because how many times have we half prepped somebody? Oh, you want to? All right, let's go. In 3 months, and they're like, you know what? Or we just start them on like their first mini, or we actually make them, or they want to do it, and you make them actually track for a month, and they couldn't even do the month. So it's like, oh, no, you're not ready.
Yeah, exactly.
So someone saying they want to is different than them, taking the steps to get there or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny because I view that as a more mature coaching mindset, maybe because I'm older or whatever, than what I used to do. But I don't know if I'd say, I don't feel like I'm more elitist. I just feel like I'm more educated, and I'm more secure in my opinions that they're a little more valid than they used to be. So I'm comfortable being like less promising and less encouraging about people that say they want to do this.
Well, and I will say that now that I've gotten older, since we're kind of talking about that anyway, I'm able to recognize that a lot better.
Yeah.
I remember when I wanted to do bodybuilding, I was like, I'm doing it, period. I don't need a coach.
Oh, I didn't
know how to do it. I'll follow this bodybuilder online and that bodybuilder online. I'm gonna figure out how to do it, you know. And I recognize that now. I recognize when people are going to do it regardless, and I can pretty much recognize when someone is going to, they're going to do it regardless, and I'll help them find a better way to do it, But yeah, like you say, there's a lot of times when I can just kind of tell when they are not committed, you know what I mean? And they're the person that says they want to do it, but almost right away you can kind of tell, but can I do it this way?
Yeah.
We should probably think about this a little bit, I
don't know. How did we get there with old age? How did we get to that conversation?
We're kind of talking more maturity than old age. More than it's all part of it. So
I'll say this:
I don't
all
know
the
if you can
perks that you
dissociate
get from
them.
bodybuilding. All the perks you can get from competitive bodybuilding, you can get just as all the perks that me and Andrea are going over that have helped us over the years age gracefully, and same thing with Brad. Like, you can get those from being a recreational bodybuilder without the stage.
That is true.
Yeah.
The stage, a stage doesn't. While that might not be for everybody, the health benefits come from it. A lot of times, the mental benefits.
Benefits.
So anything that would help you as you're aging that you would also get from bodybuilding doesn't mean stage. It's from the training, right?
The daily habits and rituals, that sort of stuff, it adds up, because a lot of it just happens to be pretty good for you.
Yeah, it's true. So wow, what?
That was pretty insightful.
Because he's got a thinking cap on. That's why.
I've gotten older since we started this podcast, so.
Yeah,
So
true.
you got
And
older and smarter.
I would go- I don't think
What
so.
are there other aspects of aging that should we, outside of the gym health? I go to the doctor all the time, but I always have.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I go to a doctor a lot more than I used to. It used to be I would go to the doctor and get blood work before every prep.
That's
Now it's a
cool.
little bit more frequently. But I got into this thinking I want to improve my health.
Okay.
And I did it for a healthy endeavor. But yeah, now I probably should go to the doctor. And I do. I go to the doctor more often. I kind of start investigating. Why am I feeling this way? I'm dizzy for some reason. Maybe I should go get that checked out. So yeah, as I've gotten older, I'm kind of like more mindful of just getting checked up when things aren't quite.
But you know when things aren't quite right because of the stuff Bert said, like you're more in tune with your body. You've felt great and felt like shit. Yeah. I just go for my thyroid blood work every however long, and then bodily problems. That sounded really bad, like shoulder, what is it, orthopedic issues. I go to see a sports chiro all the time. And then for the listeners who don't know, I have hypothyroidism, so I get my blood work done like every 3 months to regulate that. To just get it checked, and if my meds need adjusting, they do that. I've never talked about it on the podcast.
Mm-mm.
No, not even once. But I think that's the only reason. And then, because I'm a lady, I get that exam every year, as every lady should.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just being female, you got to visit the doctor more often.
Yeah. Bert, how often do you go to the doctor? Has that even changed?
That has not really changed all that much,
He
but
never goes.
I'm less reluctant to, I guess, than I would have been,
Yeah.
And kind of relating on a similar topic, like if I do get sick, like I take little steps to try not to get sick, because obviously that's time away from training. So it's made me better when it comes to that, for sure. The bodybuilding over time, it's like, I don't want to get sick this cold season, so we're going to wash our hands, and we're going to do this and we'll do that. We're going to make sure we have our micros, that sort of stuff.
Take our vitamin D, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always taken
vitamin D aware, things like that.
I've always taken health supplements since I started caring about my physique in like 7 years ago or something. It's never how a lot of people fall off when they're out of season or whatever. I just always take them.
A lot of people do. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of things, but yeah, that's a big one.
Anything else age related?
I think we did a really good job. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're getting older.
Mm-hmm.
We need to give more of a shit than we used to about some things.
Yeah. And we've noticed that when we just give a shit about certain things, like, hey, guess what? Like, this whole lifting thing gets a whole lot better.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Brad?
No, not really. It just because we're getting older doesn't mean we got to quit. It doesn't mean we got one foot in the grave.
That's the truth. That's a good way to end it.
So, there's still a lot of years here where I can get a little bit better just looking at that little graph,
Exactly. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Hey, everybody. It's Eric Helms. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. As you know, at 3DMJ, we promote evidence-based approaches to the lifting community. If that's something you want to dive deeper into, I'd encourage you to check out my research review, Monthly Applications in Strength Sport, or for short, MASS. This is a review that myself, Dr. Mike Zerdos, and Greg Knuckles put out every month. We cover the latest research publications that are applicable to strength and physique athletes, or anyone who's looking to get stronger or improve their body comp. Our content is in both written and video format. For more information on how to subscribe, check out 3dmusclejourney.com/mass. That's 3dmusclejourney.com/MASS for further details. Thanks for tuning in.